Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all the participants for the webinar today. My name is Anshuman Vastav, and I work here in BIMTech as Senior Manager in Admissions and Corporate Communications. The topic for today's webinar is what MBA aspirants should know about job skills of the future, industry expectations from the future MBAs. Before I invite the speaker, Professor Dhruv Chak, to share his thoughts and experiences on the topic, let me put a certain context and perspective to the session today. We all know that the business world today is changing at an unprecedented rate, never seen before. In fact, we are entering into a new era marked by breakthrough technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, and many more. Advancement in technology has given a rise to a new phase which we called as economy, where all the social and economic activity is facilitated by transaction platforms such as Amazon, Uber, X. This is perhaps creating expectations on, and sometimes even paradoxical demands on the companies to tap changing consumer behavior and to continue to deliver superior value to them. As if this was not all enough, came the COVID-19 pandemic, which has further accelerated this rate of change and in fact made things more ambiguous, more uncertain, and more complex. In the changing business environment, changing needs of the business, future MBAs, they should know rule-breaking concepts. They will have to find out the appropriate skills, deal with the situation, so that they can spot unexploited opportunities for themselves and succeed in their respective careers. I thought to organize this apt session wherein will help us understand MBA aspirants. What are the industry expectations from future MBAs? What are the kind of emerging skills they should focus upon? The presenter for the session today is Professor Dhruv Chak. Professor Chak is an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. He has an extensive industry experience for 45 years in leading top positions in corporate, including being the ex-chief executive officer of Gati Cargo Limited. Besides teaching marketing management, Sir is also chairperson of our Center for Faculty Development. In recent past, he has also headed the business communication area and marketing areas as their business as their area heads. Professor Chak has lectured in several institutes in US and UK, and has mentored students in several international collaborative projects. His literary achievements include an award for poetry writing from International Society of Poets, US, and has to his credits 6 published books spanning from fiction to poetry. I'm told that Professor Chak has also been a keen sportsman and has captained his university and also the team at IIM Ahmedabad at lawn tennis. With this brief introduction, I now request hand over to Chak and request him to start his presentation, share his thoughts and insight with you all. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a brief session for Q&A. You can use the chat box facility of this platform to raise your questions. We'll pick it from there. Before we begin the session, a humble request to all the participants to keep their audios on mute so that we can have a seamless noise experience for this session. So thank you with these words, and now it is over to you, Professor Dhruv.
Thank you, Anshuman. Good afternoon to everybody listening in. Sorry, there's been a lot of disturbance here. We've all been victims to it. Lots of noise and lots of background noise, and we hope it will be removed after a while and people can please put their laptops, desktops, mobiles, whatever on you. So what I'll do after this is I'll be sharing my screen with you and I'll be talking to you along with it. So here goes. So I hope you can all see my screen. Hello, Anshuman. Can the screen be seen?
His screen is not visible at the moment. Probably it may take some time.
Some time I think to come on because I've shared it and should be there. Let me know when it comes on, please.
Yeah, we are having a slightly patchy internet connection today, so I'll request all the participants to be a little more patient.
Share the screen again. Let's hope it works.
Yeah.
Does it come on?
Not yet, sir.
Seems to be a problem because it was coming on a minute ago. So, does this work? Screen. Or do you have to make it multiple participants or something? Can I make it multiple participants? Is that how it will work? Otherwise, it's difficult to get this moving. I've shared the screen. It was open already, actually.
It's a simple process, sir. We had done the trial also. Yeah, now it's coming up. Yeah, it's there.
So it's on?
There, sir. Yes,
okay.
It's there.
Sorry for all this little bit of stuff. It happens all the time. You're learning every minute. So this was what your topic was about, and all of you are pretty clear on what it is. Presumably that's why you are here. So thank you very much for being here. It's always nice talking to young people. You're in for a very, very important decision. Going in for an MBA is not easy at all. In fact, when I did it 48 years ago, I stood exactly in your shoes. In fact, at that time, we didn't have all the knowledge you guys have. You have websites, you have all kinds of people advising you, and you have all these webinars to listen on. For us, it was like the very early aeroplanes that you fly by wire. So how did I get into an MBA? I had no plans of doing an MBA. I didn't even know what an MBA was. I was preparing for an IAS exam. I was an MA in political science, all ready to go for the IAS and try for it. Then I visited good friends in IIT Kanpur, and they said, "What are you doing?" So I said, "Doing nothing right now." They said, "Why?" I said, "Because I have a year and a half to go before I can sit for this exam." So they turned around and said, "Why don't you sit for this?" I said, "What is this?" They said, "You sit for the IIMs." In fact, not for the IIMs. There were separate exams for IIM Ahmedabad, the separate exam for IIM Calcutta, XLRI had an exam, Bajaj had an exam, all separate. So I said, "Okay, what does sitting for the exam give you?" Say, "If you pass, you get a job." I said, "Good." So I sat for it. And as they say, the rest of it is history. So that's what happened to me, accidental. And that's how much of life happens. But for you guys, things are very organized. You have a lot of information. You are very, very clued in. You have TV, you have the internet, you have the whole world at your doorstep. So since you are here, I presume you are interested in thinking about whether you want to do an MBA at all or not. So as I said, this seems to be why you are here. Do you want to do an MBA? And yes, you are saying yes. So this was where I stood. What were the skills required then? Now that's a question that was before us at that time when we were doing our MBAs, because you needed to know what it was you were there to do and what it was that you were going to tell your interviewers at the end of the 2 years that you spent there. And the bright guys among us identified these as the skills. And the skills that were identified were conceptual, which basically meant you knew your concepts. Technical, you knew how to go deeper into them and how to apply them. And human meant that you could get on with people. Interpersonal relations were good. You could work in a team, you could be a leader, and generally do well with other human beings. So these have not changed. So human nature doesn't change. but a lot of new dimensions have got added. And those are the dimensions that we'll be talking about, because we are here to figure out what kind of skills you need. The skills we needed were different skills, in the sense that it was a much simpler world. You did not have to react so fast to things. Things took their own time to move. Expectations were not so high. Knowledge was not so high. So what changed all this? From, say, 1974, when I got out of my MBA, to 1990, the world was much the same, because globalization had not happened. The ICT revolution, as it is called, had not happened, which means information and communication technology, all the things that you've got the internet, and you've got everything at your fingertips, you've got in the little mobile that you hold and you keep chattering on. So all that changed, and all that made a difference to all our lives. So let me take you to what kind of change it was for us. So the question that's being asked is, what is different today and what changed it, which I've tried to answer. Liberalization happened. We were no longer dependent on our government. We were no longer dependent on handouts. We didn't look for permissions. We didn't need import permits. It was murder. Everybody in Delhi had a representative here who was called liaison. He had to talk to government and try and get licenses for everything. So things opened out, banks got denationalized, things happened, all kinds of things moved fast. Globalization came in the 1990s. ICT happened. All these came together. And that is what made the change so drastic, so absolutely exponential. So look at what I've put out there on the slide for you to tell you what happened to me. I stay in Gurgaon. It's called Millennium City. So when I moved there in 2003, there were no malls. There was no metro. A very few companies, a few eating places. We used to go to Saket in Delhi, if some of you are Delhi people, to see a movie. And I had come there for peace. I said, okay, I worked so long in my life, 30 years, now I want some peace, let's relax. And what happened? 2005 onwards, all hell broke loose. The metro rail runs less than 100 meters from my house as the crow flies, probably less, probably about 80 meters. Never actually measured it. The whole cyber city has sprung up. Everybody who's anybody all over the world have got their companies right at my doorstep. Multi-stories blot out the horizon, and streets full of malls and eateries about. The whole world has arrived at Millennium City. I call it virtual city. Why is it a virtual city? Because there's a virtual water, virtual park, everything is virtual roads. So we hope all this will come very soon, but yes, there's a lot left to go. It's a lot of glitter, yes, but a lot still needs to be done. So these are the things that happened. It was mind-blowing. We had no idea that this kind of thing would ever happen. And then, what do you need therefore? You need to handle a changed world. Your generation, you need new skills, many of which we did not possess. We were not prepared for it. There was actually a book written in 1972 by a gentleman called Alvin Toffler, and I would strongly recommend it to you. It's called Future Shock. He wrote another book later called The Third Wave. And what this book said at that time was that so much change is happening so fast that soon human beings will not be able to cope with it. And if you've got older parents, older grandparents staying with you, you'll know how it is. You know what they do with mobiles, or when they try to shift channels or try to figure out the difference between Netflix and Prime Video. So a lot of bewilderment has taken place because so much new has happened. COVID-19, of course, the horror that we are all suffering from has added new dimensions together. So through a lot of talking to various corporates, through sort of piecing together what's happening in the larger world, we tried to find out what exactly had happened. With somebody who's scrolling across this, please stop scrolling. It's very easy to annotate. I know the red line that you made, please take it off. It's not very nice. So COVID-19 has added new dimensions altogether. So what the biggest gurus today say is, who will succeed? Who is likely to succeed? The most successful companies of tomorrow will be those who manage to shape the future in their own vision. Which basically means what? It basically means companies who invent the future. Harshit Gupta, will you please take those lines off? It's not very nice, it's not very aesthetic either. So, what does McKinsey and Company have to say? They're the big gurus of consultancy. They surveyed a lot of companies recently, and they found that 1/3 had accelerated digitization of their supply chains. Now, as some of you probably know, a supply chain is starting from raw material, working through the transport of it to your factories and workshops, converting it into finished product, and finally selling it to the consumer, to the end consumer. So they've accelerated their digitization. Half of their supply chains, that is at every stage, from raw material to warehouse to the final customer. Half have sped up the digitization of their customer channels. We are all aware of this. So much online buying has been done. I'm sure most of us have been a part of the online buying, whether it's books or groceries or Swiggy or Zomato. And 2/3 have moved faster to adopt artificial intelligence and automation. Now, these are things that are a part of our lives now. This is not something that is in the future. And workforce changes have happened, work from home, you're all aware of that. In fact, I came to work to my office here in BIMTech after the 6th of March, since I am the endangered species over 65. So I was supposed to stay at home, but then one gets fed up of staying at home. And I decided to arrive last Monday. Although there was no pressure to arrive, I was here. And now I'm sitting in front of you from one of our meeting rooms. So this is what has happened. Very rapid change has happened. And it's been a part of our lives. I don't have to explain this to you. We are all being part of this whole gang, of this whole scheme. So this is what it is expected that the future will require us to learn as the employees of the future. And the first big thing is teaming with smart machines. And the kind of skills we'll have to learn is related to relearning. We've learned such a lot in this time. We didn't know what Zoom was, in fact, 5-6 months ago. Today, everything is held on Zoom. I've had my whole classes with my first term, with the new students here on Zoom. Everything's on Zoom. So we've had to relearn. We've learned Zoom. We've learned Google Meet. We know what Slido is. We know what Socrative is. Moodle is. We've been using them all. So there's no end to this game. So one of the biggest skills you guys have to learn is learn, relearn, unlearn, learn again, and continue learning. There is no end to this game. The world is moving so fast. There's no way that you can stop learning at any time in your lives. Adaptability is a big thing you guys have to do. It's not easy. We've had to adapt to our online classes. Believe me, it's been murder. It's very concentrated. Students are used to sort of a freer time. Here it's so concentrated. They've got class after class, and it's not easy for anybody. And yet they've done a good job together. When I first took classes, I was terrified. I didn't know how it would work. We had never done online classes. And yet it worked beautifully. The presentations that I saw out in the world, some of them. So everybody, in the end, but you have to put the effort. And collaboration, which is next mentioned, is very important for that because you have to be a team. So there will have to be an impact on the kind of jobs you do, how you do them. At my time, I'm talking about the 70s and 80s, you were supposed to stick to a table and do your work. You hung out on your own desk. Today, all that is gone. There's no way you can work. You have to talk to other people, find out what's going on, figure out what role you play, how can you complement other people, how can you be a better team player. That is something that you would all have to be a part of. And recruiters are looking for what?
एक नहीं Zoom है.
वही सर Zoom क्या घटिया है मेरा हो ही नहीं रहा पेपर कार्ड.
Recruiters are looking for people who can handle uncertainty. And uncertainty is the lives. Nobody knows what the future will bring. Can somebody mute their things, please? There's a lot of noise coming. It's going to be uncertain environment for you all your lives. Things are changing. Therefore, you will not have to be afraid of change. You have to surf that, as we call it. And it's a really tough job because we as human beings, we like stability. We like to know the job is done, we know what to do. And that's not going to be there for you. So employers are looking for people who can manage, who are flexible, who can think on their feet, and not look to them for solutions. Your boss will not you to ask him for a solution. He expect you to try and at least find one for yourself. Go to him for help, yeah, but go to him with suggestions. That is my advice to you whenever you start work. Okay, so we'll take that from there. Something has happened to the slides for some reason. I don't know what suddenly happened. Okay. So anyway, what further happened here? These are some kind of things which the Mint identified as coming from the IIMs and the kind of jobs that are coming up. This is what is likely to be required in terms of hiring. So soft skills is something that is going to be very, very essential for you to possess. That means not just the analytics of it. It means the team playing of it. It means working with people. it needs thinking on your feet, and it needs communication. Digitally connected working, part of what everybody is doing today, is here to stay. It's not going away anywhere. And of course, flexibility in candidates will be preferred. You can't get stuck to your own idea. Flexibility also means a willingness to listen to other people's ideas. So you have to play a pretty all-round role. This is the kind of things that hirers will be looking for in you. Therefore, please improve your communication skills. There's somebody who's having a whale of a time here, and he sort of had the first time in his life, I think he's known what annotation is, so let him enjoy himself. So let's move on from there. This is something I took off the Jindal Global University website. That's a very up and coming university, and it's very, very far thinking. So they took a look at what kind of post-COVID opportunities are going to come up. These were the ones they came up with. I want to leave you for a minute with looking at these. So, robotics, AI, and ML, artificial intelligence. Can we please have somebody who puts those things off? It's very easy to be mute. It's not so difficult, is it? So you have human resource champions, legal experts, legal things are going to come up, digital transformers, how are you going to handle the new economy? How are you really going to handle the exponential technologies? Those are big challenges coming. Business leaders, how do you run the business itself? Finance consultants in this very changed scenario, another very tricky thing. Entrepreneurship, this is one thing I'd like to stop for a minute on. In my time, and this is the biggest of all changes that I've seen. In my time when I did an MBA, if you went into an interview and said you wanted to be an entrepreneur, you would be thrown out of an interview. Because the corporate's thinking was that if this guy wants to be an entrepreneur, why am I wasting my time on him? I'm going to train this guy, he's going to come up and he's going to leave my company in 3 years. So forget it. So this is something which has totally changed. Even companies today encourage you to think, as entrepreneurs call it, intrapreneurship, which means within the company you think as if you are an owner of the company, in whatever role you are. It basically means you do things for the good of the company. So that is something which has changed totally. Plus, we encourage you in the MBA also to look at entrepreneurship because that's where the jobs come from. And there'll be marketing managers, there always are. Without marketing, there is no business. And there will be business analysts who will try and figure out, will do things called scenario planning, will try and figure out what's going to happen next. So these are the kind of jobs that they expect to come in future. And these are things that anybody who enters needs to be prepared for. I don't really know why my slides are wanting to disappear. It's never happened before. And it's very strange. Extremely strange what's happened here. It's absolutely amazing. Anshuman, are you there? Prince?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's what happened to the slides, right? They all just managed to vanish. They're a minute ago and then they decide to go off. After 20, they've all gone. Can somebody knock off slides? I don't know. Somebody's been annotating and doing tricks there. So I hope that's not what has happened. 124 slides I never had. I know something. It's very, very strange happening. We just did a whole trial. There was no problem at all. Sorry for the people who are listening to this because this is very, very unfortunate. I don't know if this is somewhere we started out.
Yeah, it's coming up, sir.
It's very, very strange what happened here though.
No, I tell you, sir, the internet connection seems to be slightly patchy. It's inconsistent and it will take some time for the slides to get load.
Fine, but I'm saying, why did the slides vanish? Okay, I suppose I'll take you at face. It's a terrible internet. I've never seen an internet like this happening. Anyway, sorry guys who are listening on. So, okay, so that is what it is felt that those are the kind of skills that you guys will require. And further then we try to take a look at what are consultants saying today. So this is a very well-known consultant. He's an advisor to governments. He's a keynote speaker. And from Forbes magazine, we took this. And this is what he said are the 5 skills that you need in the future. If you notice, and what we talked about earlier, the first 3 are all to do with your soft skills. Now that's amazing, isn't it? Because what did you think an MBA was? When I did an MBA, it was all hard skill. Let me tell you that very clearly. You got case studies to do, you analyze them threadbare, and you came out with solutions. Today, it's all that is there, but that's not so much in the foreground. What is in the foreground is how you get on with people, how creative are you, can you innovate, how flexible are you, can you change, how adaptable are you. All this is something that came up in the job requirements of the future, if you recall. So there's a lot of match there. Data literacy, basically, because there's so much data around that you really need to go through all of it to figure out what is relevant. And that is what an MBA does in a case study. We have so much material going on, you have to figure out what of this is just useless and what is this that I need to use. And then there's tech savviness. Without this, there is no existence. We wouldn't be on Zoom if people were not tech savvy. So this is what consultants feel. What does academia say? Because after all, what is an MBA? It is where the academics are. Let me for a minute pause to tell you where BIMTech is different. BIMTech has a very, very strong blend of industry practitioners who have been there for several years in industry. I am one of them. We have a gentleman who was ex-MD of Timex Watches. You have people from Tata's, you have people from other industries, and therefore there has been a blend of industry and academia, which is to a large extent, which makes it a very interesting place to be in and to study in, because you can get a lot of theory from the academics and can be filled in by what the people who've actually done practices, and vice versa. Because the practitioner often is not too fond of theory, but then when two of you work together and teach classes together, you find out that a lot of new things come our way. We learn a lot as teachers ourselves. So what does academia say? What are the skills that are needed? This is what the Harvard Business School, the Mecca of all business schools, has to say. Economics, obviously, you need to know what's happening in the country. Data analysis, without this, you can't interpret anything that comes your way. Financial accounting to run your company. Negotiating with your boss for a raise, for example. Negotiating with customers for prices. Business management skills, how do you run the whole show. Leadership, somebody has to run the boat. Effective communication, this again becomes very, very important, because this is the one way that you and I as human beings talk to each other. And this can often be the basis for lasting relationships and the basis for breaking relationships. Emotional intelligence, again, no longer just the IQ and the brain and the 99.99, God knows what percentile you guys are supposed to get in CAT. So emotional intelligence is basically the other side of it, the softer side of it. And finally, what is a manager? He is a decision-making animal, therefore decision-making skills. And networking. This again was not so important in my day and time. It's become very important today, because for an MBA group, if you're sitting here as MBAs in a class or anywhere, wherever you are as MBAs, you have a whole group. For example, in BIMTech, you would have 420 people in each batch. That makes it 840 between the two batches on campus. So think of it. You go into a job, you have so many possibilities for getting information, for making your job easier. So therefore, start networking early. Networking not in a mean kind of way, but networking in the kind of way that you make friends with people and it makes your job easier. You can get information, you can get advice. They'll be working in companies in different positions. You can take the help, they'll take yours. It's all give and take in life. So that was what Harvard had to say. Look at what Columbia says. I rather liked a very neat presentation that they made. So what did they say? We bridge theory and practice by integrating three themes. And just look at the three themes. So there's innovation. Everybody says innovation. There's no choice. If you don't innovate, somebody will get ahead of you. Think like an entrepreneur. There's somebody having fun again. Can we please go away? Is this a child or something? Or he's trying to be clever? I don't really know. Anyway. Is disturbing everybody. I'm the least disturbed. I have this in classes all the time. Anyway, so to connect means connecting the dots in business problems, which basically means that there are different issues coming up at different times. You don't really know which to tackle first. What is the cause of which? So you try and figure out, where do I start? What is the prime cause, and get to the end of it. You try and solve your problem. And finally, of course, it is to lead. One day you will be leaders, all of you one day. Because you don't always be a team member. You learn how to be a team member first. Only then can you lead. But later, the bigger skill is leading a team, getting people to buy into your vision and working. So we looked at this and what did industry have to say? So we looked at views of various people drawn from industry, and this is what they said. You need a values-driven education, doing the right thing for the long term, that is ethics, operate with integrity and trust, invest in people, which means think of people not as only resources to be used, or think of people as your most precious valued treasure. Help communities to be as successful as the companies themselves. Then we are talking about things like CSR. BIMTech, for example, is in a community. We are in Greater Noida, so we are connected with the whole community. We do CSR activities. We have many activities of CCR, some of which have been talked about already in the movie, which some of you may have seen. Then they talk about a borderless orientation, which means you don't think in silos. It's not as if you do marketing, then you become a marketing person, or you do HR, you become an HR person. You basically put all that together. And that is what a complete manager is. So that is what you need to become one day to run a company, to run a department. You have to, for example, if I was to launch a product in Greater Noida, I'm a marketing guy, I'm a branch manager in Greater Noida, I'm launching a luxury soap. So what would I have to get together? I would have my marketing guys already in place. I would need to coordinate with production so that my material is on time. I would have to figure out with my IT guys what's happening. About silos not being there, you need to collaborate with people to get your work done, to get any work done in fact, and you need networking skills for your own career development, plus the innovation and experimentation that we've talked about. Plus there's a very new skill that is required, which is we are no longer sort of a company operating alone. The consumer is a part of your team and everybody else, your supplier is a part of your team. So many years ago, when I was a zonal manager for a company called Shaw Wallace and Company, which manufactures drinks like Royal Challenge, etc., it was very difficult for a supplier to meet me. If a supplier came to meet me, it would probably take him 2-3 days to be let to see me. For the simple reason that suppliers were not considered very important at that time. The company was all important because there was no competition. But today the supplier is a part of your value chain. He is the one who makes your product reach the shelves. He is the one who gives efficiency to you. So these are the kind of skills that industry expects you to have today when you get into it. And these are the skills that an MBA has to give to you. Because without these skills, you are not going to be ready to enter industry and get off the ground running. So having said that, there's a very simple little diagram in front of you, which I will now put for you, which was part of a book called Rethinking the MBA, which came out a few years ago by Shrikant Datar, who's an ex-IMA alumnus and also an Harvard professor. He said there are 3 things that the MBA has to learn to do. And he says the first is knowing, which means you know your concepts, you know your theory well, and all the stuff that is given to you in a classroom. The second thing is actually doing things. That is the implementation part of it, which means you have the competitions, you have clubs, you have internships, you go right ahead and get into it and find out how things really happen in real life. And that's not all. There's a third dimension, which said was equally important, which is the ethical part of it, the being. What kind of human being are you? What kind of values do you have? And all this is becoming increasingly more important. You're seeing the scams that run, you're seeing all that's happening around you. That's nothing I have to explain to you. So what is being said is that the being part of it is very important today. And that is something that has been neglected earlier. So what does BIMTech do to put it together? We've looked at the things we've talked about. We've looked at digitization. We've looked at machine learning. We've looked at adaptability, learnability, flexibility, all the kind of things that you need to have. So what does a good MBA institute, whether it's BIMTech or any other, do to put it all together? And let's take a look at what our formula for this has been. So what we are trying to do is to get you ready for the next wave. So all the thinking technologies, all the cognitive technologies to be shifted to an enterprise business level need, and with the one purpose, because that's why anybody's in business, and that is delivering a superior customer experience. You and I buy only because we have a great experience from someone. We will not buy otherwise. We have a choice. I go into a shop, I don't like it, I move out from it to another. Company misbehaves with me, I say, go away, I'm not coming back to you. So what we try our best to do is try and tell you how these technologies have a managerial application. So when you guys will be working, you will not be expected to know how every technology works. Absolutely not. Please don't get frightened of this. A lot of MBAs get very afraid. How will I know this? I'm not a technical person. I'm not an engineer. Doesn't really matter. What really matters more is, do you know how it can be applied? Do you know who to get to apply it? Do you know what the cost of getting it is? Can you get it at the right price from the right source, from the right man? So these are the kind of things that you need to know. And then, how will I put everything together? All my different channels. I've got my online channel, I've got my retailer, I've got my distributor, I've got my sales force. How do they all work together? These are the things you need to understand. And this is the kind of skills that we try and provide you here at BIMTech. So what are the building blocks? What is it that we actually do? If you come here, what do you expect? So I'll give you a minute to read this and I'll try and explain this to you after that. So there's quite a lot of things that we've got here on for you. Let me try and go through them very briefly. Don't have too much time left thanks to all these interruptions. What are we doing with our courses? This is something I want you to take a very, very good look at. These are the cutting edge courses. I'm not talking about the standard courses that we have. The foundation courses are all there. I teach courses in Marketing 1, Marketing 2, which are basic courses. You have specialization courses. You go into digital marketing. You have marketing analytics, which means how do you measure what the marketing effort is? Then you have IT, AI, ML, IoT, and then you've got IIoT, which is Industrial Internet of Things, big data management, InsurTech for our international business, digital transformation, consulting, business development, you name it, we've got it there. Very highly IT oriented are the courses that we have got. And analytics runs through everything. Because you need finally to know how to analyze and how to figure out whether the effort is worth it or not. Finance has fintech in it. Then you have linguistic computational analysis of financial statements. Strategy has design thinking, which is the newest kid on the block, but now it's maybe 8-9 years old, but yet it's absolutely cutting edge. Business innovation and growth. You have supply chain analytics. You have economics, tells you the big picture. Analytics everywhere, social media, HR, supply chain. You have simulations, which is basically how the business runs without actually being in a real business. So you do these simulations. Capstone does it for the whole business, how each step you take impacts the whole business. Markstar does it specifically for marketing. If you take this kind of decision, you spend this kind of money on advertising, what's going to happen? Things like that. And it gives you an end result. So you know what your decisions impact they've had. And CSR, we've got responsible business with ethics emphasized. In fact, our whole institute is sold on ethics. Our values of which ethics is a very, very strong part. And business communication again gets very interesting because you have communication through theater techniques. Your storytelling is a marketing tool. How do you convince a customer to buy your product? So it's all in all, it's pretty interesting. So what else do? We have the Industry Connect for you. Lyceum is our what we call our flagship event. And that is basically, I just explained it to you because I used to organize it at one time. This comes just before placement. What we do is we get teams made of 2 second years and 1 first year. And together they present something on a theme like, let us say, creative responses to COVID. And through many, many rounds in many, many sectors, you finally decide on the final teams and they are judged by people from industry. So you expose your students to industry. Industry gets to know what your students are like, and if they like them, they can even recruit them. So you have guest lectures standardly going on from industry experts from practically every industry you can think of. Convocations addressed by CEOs, other industry leaders. We've had Abdul Kalam, President Abdul Kalam also address us here. We have summits, which are all in India, which are international. We have roundtable conferences. We have case study summits. And then we meet maybe once a year or once in 2 years, people from industry to revise our curriculum. So they tell us, okay, this is current, this is not, teach this, put this in your course. And a very novel thing we have is in each of our courses, which internal faculty teaches, 20% of each course is taught by industry practitioners to supplement the internal faculty and to update people on what's actually happening in industry. So these are just snapshots of the kind of things that happen. This was a LCA masterclass. You have me sitting here in the suit. Over here, this was in 2015. And these are the judges judging it. The boys are presenting. This was an Indian marketing summit that we had. We've had 5 of them. Then this is the social enterprise, Deloitte and HRD, and who are people with us. This chairman of ZTV is there, Subhash Hada is there, our people. So a lot of stuff goes on, exciting stuff. And what do you do outside the classroom? That was inside the classroom, largely. So you have summer internships for 3 months, where you have projects, you have a mentor from industry, you have a mentor from a faculty, and you work out a project on some kind of problem that the company has. So that gives you 8 credits, and it's really, really important, and people love it. People come back very different people in the second year, because this is between the first and the second years. And you have short-term projects, which are 2 per student has to be done while he's here, which means about 10-day projects, in which you figure out what industry you want in your area of interest. Then you have industry visits, both in India and abroad. And these are some of them. Costco shipping is where our international business students went. This is Singapore. And our manager here, our PGDM manager, Ms. Meenakshi Bhatt, is there in the yellow dress with the students, plus some of our faculty go along with them. Then you have a visit to H&M India. You have the Safe Express has been visited by, you have any number of these visits going on all the time. This was just to give you a flavor of things. And then who are our recruiters? I mean, there is a whole list of them. It's too big to put in here, but I've tried to do that for you. So you have the top consultants, you have the automobile manufacturers, you have the B2B companies, you have the Birlasofts, you have Wipro, Accenture. I mean, you name it, they're there. This was just to give an idea of who comes. And this can go on. We have this. I mean, this could go on forever. So I'm not going to spend more time on this. Let's move on to things that could interest you outside all this. What are the kind of skills? Why do we insist on these clubs and conduits? Because we feel it's very important what you do outside the classroom with each other. And that's a part of the whole experience. So these are the clubs we have. And the conduits are basically committees. So we have Majlis, the debating club. We have Bismarck, the marketing club. Filmviz, the finance club. Name it, we've got there. We've got Quiz Crazy, Bimtechians, QCB, economics. I mean, these are only, I think, how many are these ones? And 14, we actually have 22 of these. I couldn't put that on one side. I didn't want to keep on repeating it. So, and then there's the entrepreneurship club. That's very, very important also. Plus, we have the Atal Incubation Center, which is being talked about in the corporate film, if you saw it. And we have entrepreneurs being churned out from here by the dozen. So we have a whole lot of stuff going on. It's exciting. And it's a lot of hard work. And then you have fun. So these are your BPL is no less than IPL. You have girls, boys, everybody rooting for each other and sort of having fun. You have these fests. You have a business quiz. This is the ICMC with the case study conference. I've just given you snippets of stuff. There's a whole lot more that goes on. And there's stuff that goes on outside the country, which is what we have here is so many collaborations. You have exchange tie-ups with B schools for one term. If you want, you can go. Of course, it costs you. Your education for that term is free, but obviously you have to pay for your stay. You have student exchange, you have faculty exchanges. And the big programs are these business schools we've shown you here. Sydney Business School, Australia. FA Joannem is Austria. Neoma Business School, Kedge Business School in France, 2 of these. School in Finland, Kozminski University, Warsaw in Poland. And then you have consultancy projects where some of our students are involved. In fact, I was involved with one of these projects. I'll just show you what it was about. It's called the Cyber Consultancy Project. It was in Washington. And it's an international project that takes place every year. And I'll just take you to that. This is what the project was. It was with the Robert H. Smith Business School. That's the business school in the University of Maryland. You have me there on the extreme right. These were our four students who went along with us. The client is on the extreme left, and that client was Jayashree Tea. They wanted a project where to launch their packet tea, the kind of stuff that you dip in, like the Taj Mahal tea. So they were collaborating with the 3 Chinese students in this university. And these students went along, they worked out the whole project plan with them. They spent a week in Washington where they listened to consultants, they listened to top CEOs, and they came back and made a presentation after 2-3 months working in the Indian market, to presented it to the Jayashree Tea management on how their product would be launched. The product now is on our tables. We have Birla Tea with us. So these are the kind of things. On the left, you see me talking to students in the University of Hertfordshire. This is in UK. We're talking about India's GDP growth, as you see. And their own faculty came over for an exchange here. They talked to our students. What happened then was that 75 of their students and 100 of ours collaborated in projects to launch a service industry in India. It was a very interesting project. It went on for 3 years. Not the same project, but with different groups, we had the collaboration for the next 3 years. So these are the kind of things that we've been doing to ensure that the kind of skills we've been talking about are inculcated in all of you. If you join our MBA, and what do we want the finished product to be? This is what we anticipate. So we hope that the knowledge base that we will give you will be the founding pillar for value creation for you. We'll make you digital experts. You can think strategies in an agile manner. And finally, of course, it all gets related to the customers. The customer doesn't buy, companies don't exist. And the community at large, the community you live in. That is something that more and more we are involved in. We have a lot of CSR activities going on at the moment. We have libraries that we have in jails that our librarian has been very involved in that kind of project, a social project, and various libraries all over UP have been equipped with our books. And our final task, which I put here, is to build intelligent captains of tomorrow, which is yourself. The plus is what you get if you come to BIMTech and what we try and provide you. And with that, I will conclude this presentation. I'm sorry for the glitches that we've had. Things stopped from the middle, but that's a part of the new world that we live in. And thank you very much. Thank you for the patient listening. And now I'll stop staring my screen so you are open to questions if you have any. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for an invigorating presentation.
Pleasure.
I am sure the participants might have benefited a lot through your rich industry experience and your experience while interacting with MBA graduates. You have explained it wonderfully how the business environment has transitioned over the past several years and what the future MBAs should do in terms of skill acquirement and how they should align themselves to the changing business needs at the enterprise level. I have now received a couple of questions which I will put you across. In fact, the very first question I got was from Shekhar Kumar Pandey. He's interested to know about your experience at IIM Ahmedabad, sir.
Okay. IIM Ahmedabad, I can tell you, was a very simple place at that time. We didn't have AC rooms and all which people have here. We lived in a small room, but very single rooms, thankfully. We were also, our classes were held in 2 sheds, which now have been demolished. I went there, I was very sad to see those sheds are gone. Teachers were top class. The industry was very, basically the MBA was very new. The first classes that graduated in about 65 or 67, I was in the 74 batch. So batches were still in single figures. We were very fortunate. We didn't have to go through all this tough competition you guys have to go through in sort of getting jobs. We came easy for us. Companies were hiring us. There weren't too many of us around. So how do I call it? We are top class teachers. There was a lot of intellectual honesty around. If a teacher didn't know what was what, he admitted it. He didn't sort of try and bluff his way through. And there was a lot of collaboration. It was a very, very close kind of world at that time. And it was jobs were largely in the manufacturing sector because the service industry hadn't come up. Service industry came later. For example, the first job I joined was with Shaw Wallace, which was a manufacturing concern. It had factories for liquor, it had factories for agricultural products, it was into shipping, it was into fertilizers. And in the 1990s or so, the service industry came. So our jobs also got shifted. So from a very, very solid manufacturing base, from Shaw Wallace, I moved to a company called Western Crompton. It's a very heavy engineering. And I used to do their market planning for them. From there, we moved on to the service industry where I worked with companies like Sterling Resorts, which was absolutely different. There was no product. You just have resorts there and people given holidays. And then I worked with Gati, which was cargo. And that was a company that we set up and it was different. The difference between MBA and a PGDM, I don't think you should worry too much about. This is very, very technical. For if you're going to do one, just don't worry about it. Get into whatever you like. Unless you're going to do research, there are implications for it, which you'll have to talk to the researchers about. I'll tell you what my degree was. My degree was not an MBA, let me tell you. My degree was a PG-DBA. And the DBA came from Harvard because the collaboration that IIM Ahmedabad had was with Harvard. They set it up for us. The collaboration was there. So they used to have a DBA called the MBA was the Master in Business Administration. So we became PGDBAs. In India, for some reason, there were technical reasons. I'm not getting into that. Why we were not called MBAs, but we were not called MBAs. We were given a diploma. So it was called postgraduate diploma in business administration. Later, it became a PGDM. So it's basically the same thing. There are technicalities in it I will not want to get into. You can read it up. It'll be all over the net. It's very confusing, believe me. But there are technical differences and depends on who sort of looks after them and who are the authorities who sort of govern their rules. Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Amit wants to know what are the sectors that will be good in post-COVID-19 world for doing MBA?
Sectors for doing an MBA means what? What you want to take a job in? Because that is something we talked about earlier. So we've talked about a whole lot of sectors where you probably have opportunities. I don't know if you were there for the earlier part of the lecture, but that is what we talked about. All those are sectors that I've talked about. You'll be a lot to do with digitalization will be there, a lot to do with analytics will be there. You'll have to do a lot of machine learning, all kinds of sectors. Business analysts will be also a very big thing happening. In fact, we get a lot of opportunities for that even now. Wipro comes here, companies come here, which take maybe 20 to 30 people away from us. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Next question is from Prakriti. She wants to know after observing the job challenges because of COVID, is MBA a good option in this difficult time?
Yep.
Let
me explain something to you. I don't know what that was all about, but yeah. Sorry, can you repeat that again? It's saying why
sure,
is MBA good at this time?
Exactly.
At this time, look, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of this. See, what do most companies do? When they're passing through difficult times, they generally finish off two things. One is advertising, traveling, and they stop expenses on everything like training. Now, that is the silliest thing that anybody can do. The companies which emerge well are the ones that are prepared for it during those times. Because when those crises are over, they are the ones ready and running. So my suggestion to you is this is the best time, in fact, to do an MBA. Because this is not the time that you're losing out on an opportunity. See, what kind of challenges come from a working professional? I'm working here, I'm going to lose 2 years of salary here. Then I'll wonder whether I'll get the same kind of salary which I would have got if I'd got a promotion. These are the considerations that you get. Which is why schools like ISB do well because you've got a year and a quarter roughly there. So you're not wasting too much time. So my suggestion is these are the best times when you're in crisis, spend your time productively. And the MBA would probably be the best time to do it. Although there are challenges, let me put that for you. Online classes is what we are having. It's not been easy for anyone. But it's been amazing the kind of responses that I've seen from students. I was very afraid of it, let me tell you. I never held an online class. I didn't know how it would work. Students I think they've learned a lot of new skills in this time. Doing presentations and coordinating 6 guys together to do it is a hell of a job, and they've done it beautifully. We didn't have to tell them how to do it. They found their own ways. So my suggestion to you is that if this is the time and you feel it's the right time for an MBA, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I think it's a pretty good time. And it's the most challenging of all times. So you probably learn a lot more than you would have learned in normal times.
I think Sir Manisha wants to ask a somewhat similar
Sure.
question. How we as MBA aspirants be
Yeah.
prepared to tackle the future challenges, learn skills, short course or anything similar. So
See
she
what-
basically wants to know how productively she can utilize her time at the moment and prepare herself for
I'll
an
tell you
MBA
what some of
course.
our students have done. We had a very big challenge during our summer internships because summer internships actually meant you went to an office and worked. You got to know what was happening. You got to know people. This time it couldn't happen, obviously. So we did two things. One is we allowed our students to do these massive online courses. And you had courses from Harvard, you had courses from Udemy, you had courses from a whole lot of other people, which were all free. And our students prepared themselves. They looked at courses in their areas of interest and they undertook those courses. That was one thing they did. Other students got online internships with companies. And large of it bit was done with their own efforts, some was done through our efforts. And they've come back quite happy with those courses. I'm not in any way saying that that can replace the experience you have of real work. But yes, it is the closest you can get to real work at this time. And things get well, hopefully things will become much better and they'll do much better. One thing that I'd like to tell you is work from home for a lot of companies is here to stay. Let me give you an example. My son is a lawyer, he's in London. He's been told by his company not to come for 6 months to the company. He's working from home. My daughter is an MBA. Unfortunately, she followed my footsteps, but she also went to Ahmedabad, but not to IIM Ahmedabad. She went to MICA, which is, as you probably know, the Communications Institute. Her institute, people have also told us we'll take a decision 3 months later. All these are challenges. My daughter-in-law is married to my son in London and works with the bank. She's also working from home. But all of them are finding ways out of this challenge. So this is not something that anybody can do anything about. We can only hope it finishes fast. But we talked about adaptability, we talked about learnability. We need to get used to the idea that things have changed forever. Things will never be back to what they were 6 months ago. So that is the first major difference that we have to put into our heads and then find ways to deal with it. I'm sure there'll be things happening in a blended manner, things will open up. And then some of the old things will come back, but many skills that we have learned will remain with us. Somebody was asking a question, I didn't get that. Sorry, speaking to this lady.
In case somebody wants to ask a question, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
My advice to most of you is don't worry so much. Everything sorts itself out. We've all lived through very difficult times.
So Lakshya wants to ask what are some of the important factors
Yeah.
we should look while selecting a B school?
A B school.
Yes.
Select number one, a B school which sort of vibrates or chimes with what you feel is a good is the way it works. Find a school whose values you like. Find a school where the activities are the kind you like. And my guess is go onto a website, have a look at the kind of teachers you have, the kind of faculty you have, the kind of activities you do. You'll get a feel of it from there. Because without that, it's very difficult. In fact, how do you choose which company you join? It's very difficult to know before you really join. So you talk to people, you find out the culture. Talk to some old students of those institutes. Talk to some old students of those institutes. They'll do their best to tell you. They are the most honest. And they'll tell you, talk to a few of them. Some may not have liked it. Some may have liked it. Talk to a couple of students. You get a very good idea of what an institute is like. Make no mistake about that. Somebody was asking a question about MSc in Chennai. I think I'm not sure what. It didn't pop up. One sec. Let me see if I can see it.
So the question
can't
was,
you do it?
can I do an MBA after MSc in chemistry?
Absolutely. I did it after an MA in political science. I've done all kinds of crazy things in my life. Make no mistake about that. I got into IIT in the first 100. I didn't go because I wanted to have fun, play tennis, and I wanted to do arts. So I went into liberal arts. So I never found a problem with it. The engineers didn't understand anything about the soft skills when I was there. I understood nothing about engineering when I was in the IIM. It all works out here. Don't worry. It doesn't matter. If you've got a keen mind, you can learn anything. Don't like that worry.
There's a
Yeah.
similar apprehension from one of the participants, sir.
Which is what?
He wants to know, till now I have a bunch of experiences as an intern only, but
Yeah.
one of my research paper has already been published in Catalyst. Will it be an asset for the selection process in various B schools?
I frankly don't know because there are all kinds of things. Different B schools have different parameters. But yes, if you've done something in a good magazine or in a good paper, in a good journal, why shouldn't it be? But I'm saying you follow your interests finally. You decide what you want. And the selection process is 100 things in it. You'll have GDs, you'll have interviews, you'll have track records, past. One single thing doesn't matter. The whole lot of things put together.
So I would like to add to your answer
Sure,
that
please.
as an intern, probably in BIMTech, we have a criteria for work experienced people that we count at least 12 months and give the weightage for work experience. I do not know the selection criteria weightages for work experienced people varies from B school to B school. So in that sense, you may not be able to earn a weightage for your work experience as an intern, but perhaps your research paper that has been published, it is of course your achievement, your extracurricular activity that you can anyhow showcase during the interview process.
See, anything you've done which is out of the ordinary or which is more than other people do helps. It's as simple as that. You stand out.
There was slightly one or two questions related to admissions per se. I'll request the participants to drop in their queries at admission@bimtech.ac.in and get your all doubts and clarifications clear from there. There was a question, sir,
Yeah.
that how we can spend time effectively while doing an MBA.
It's a very difficult question. Actually, well, see, let me tell you something. If you were in a normal kind of situation with no COVID, you would have gone mad arriving here. When I arrived at IIM, I was wondering what I was doing there. Everybody seemed so bright, and everybody was the top of them somewhere or the other. It was hell. So, but finally, you find your own way. You find what you are good in. Somewhere you have to decide very clearly what am I going to concentrate on. And you have to be very, very clear how you balance your extracurriculars with your studies. Please always remember you're here to study. Make no mistake about that. People get carried away and get into too many activities and they have a problem. So what I advise all new students is participate in events, participate in the life of the campus. Without that, there's no fun. But please concentrate on the studies. Find the right balance. That comes only with practice. Believe me, after 3 months, you'll figure out exactly where you are. It's very easy in an MBA to really understand that, but it takes 3 months to understand. Once you understand that, then you find your own ways of dealing with it. And that's finding your way around. You have to use your own head. I wish I could give you a solution to that.
So Ashin Das Gupta wants to ask an interesting question. How will a company know that I am an MBA? How to make myself marketable?
A company know you're an MBA. It's probably written on your biodata that you're an MBA. You mean that you've got the skills of an MBA? Oh, they
What
check
basically
you out.
wants to know how to make himself
His
marketable.
presence,
Yes.
His presence felt, sure. See, let me tell you something about what every company wants. This is something I tell all students who come for how to prepare for an interview. There's nothing you have to do in an interview except one thing. And that is to state your case to the employer why you fit the profile he is looking for. If you can do that, you get the job. Whether you're an MBA or not MBA doesn't matter. Probably an MBA in many things is a basic qualification. So I don't think that is what will make you stand out. But they can ask you all kinds of questions and they check you out. They see what your reasoning skills are. They see how good you are at analysis. There are all kinds of tests that companies do. They can give you a case study. They can give you a situation to work on. They can do a psychological test for you. So all these tests are there. So it's not a single test that companies have. Different companies test you for different things. Now my daughter was applying for a job recently somewhere and it was a massive thing there, about a 4-hour exercise of filling in things of all kinds of creative things, visualizations. What will you do in this situation? What will you do in that situation? A psychological test before they even take you further. So different companies have different systems. Some can be simple, some can be very, very complicated. Some can go through 6 rounds of interview. So one single thing of how you prove an MBA, I'm not sure is how you're going to do it. How you're going to do it is to prove to a company why you're useful to them and how. That is how it will really work.
Very aptly said, sir. I'll take the last question.
Yeah.
Slightly in a niche area, it says, what future holds for techno managers?
What the MBA holds?
What future holds for techno managers?
Yeah, sure. What does that mean? Basically, it means that how good you are at handling technology. Is that what it means? What's a techno manager in your definition? Everything. I think machine learning and AI and all that, robotics, all that is in that direction. I think it's a very, very big scope for you. I think you have a big advantage ahead of other people who are not so skilled. Because a lot of the new jobs that are going to come out are all about reskilling. Most of the jobs they say that are present today will all be finished in 5 years. The kind of jobs we took for granted will be done by machines. So a whole lot of stuff, if your understanding of that is good, I think, the future is as good as anybody's, even better than any skill that you have to my mind, which allows you to interact with the environment and do things in a better manner is a marketable skill. I don't think you have a problem there at all.
Thank you, sir. With that answer, we come to the closure of this session.
Thank you,
It was
people. Yeah.
really an interesting session for all of us. In fact, we as your colleagues have also gained a lot through your experience of this session, sir. Before I close, let me inform all our participants that BIMTech's application form is available online. And in the month of December, we'll be organizing our profile-based shortlisting round of the PI and VAT process. The last date to apply is 2nd of December. For any admission-related queries, you can reach out to us through email on admission@bimtech.ac.in. Thank you, Professor Dhruv, and thank you, my colleague Prince, for helping us organize this session. Thank you, all the participants, and see you very soon once again.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anshuman. Thanks, Prince. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.